At the moment, you cannot invite me in that kind of drama. So that clownish kind of sloganeering for me is not does not impress me.
It's not involved in clownish sloganeering. This is all demeaning people who are doing things differently. This is complete sour graping. When he cannot have something, he wants to reduce it to clownish, identity or definition.
You all lost an election. Do you imagine this could be an opportunity for you to be more meaningful outside Parliament?
I have no problem in losing an election. I have a very big problem in being declared a loser in a drama, in a debacle.
Mathias Mpuuga is a true definition of a charmer. When he talks, it's just like nobody Mao. A true definition of a snake oil salesman. They talk a big game, but on substance and quality, really there's nothing there.
If we had consolidated the unit of the opposition in voice and action, it would have been different.
What the... What's wrong with this man? If we had consolidated the unity of the opposition, dude, you are the definition, you're the face of the failure of unity of the opposition. There was unity in the National Unity Platform before you awarded yourself 500 million shillings. And yes, indeed, presenting to you from these United States of the America. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you're watching me and at whatever time you might watch this conversation. My name is Mordecai Murisa, and you're welcome to Mordecai Murisa Live. Exactly. Are you ready, ladies and gentlemen? I've seen a few people complain about our audio. We're going to get that fixed. Are you ready? It's going to be interesting, this one. Going to be looking at that gentleman, Owechitibwa, the Omuteke Mathias Mpuuga. He's coping and seething. He's not willing to move on. Seems like now he's resorted to complete sour graping. Not only sour graping now, it is a myriad of excuses is putting across in defense for his crushing defeat in Nyendo Mukungwe. We all saw this coming, but apparently he didn't. Are you ready? Let's do this. Everyone knew that Mpuuga would lose, but he didn't know this. Okay. Now, let me tell you what's going on right now. Ready? All right, let's do this. So, ladies and gentlemen, like I mentioned, Mathias Mpuuga, following his extremely crushing defeat in Nyendo Mukungwe, Mathias Mpuuga, who is former leader of opposition, appears to be far from ready to accept this political setback. Instead, the gentleman is now launched into a series of fiery remarks, directing his frustration toward the current opposition leadership led by none other than Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert, famously known as Bobi Wine. In his latest tirades on NBS, Mpuuga seemed to lay blame for the opposition's struggle spanning nearly 4 decades squarely on the feet or at the feet of Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert. The accusation should be striking, considering that Bobi Wine has not been involved in elective or active politics for not even for 10 years, not for a decade. Yet that has done little to stop Mpuuga from repeatedly targeting him in his public statements. Now, the tension came to a head during his recent appearance on NBS's Morning Breeze, where he was interviewed by none other than Simon Kaggwa Njala. And Kaggwa Njala was, I would say, he was able to push back on the accusations, the gaslighting, and the blame game the whataboutism of Mpuga with his unrelenting questions. And what really unfolded was Mpuga failing to defend his record. Let's go on and listen to what Mpuga is saying, and from there I'll be giving my commentary, and I'm quite certain you're going to enjoy this one. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's go on and listen to Owechitiibwa. Here we go.
Must also be reflected in what you want to do differently from the ruling party. So, at the moment, you cannot invite me in that kind of drama. So that clownish kind of sloganeering for me is not does not impress me.
It's not involved in clownish sloganeering. This is all demeaning people who are doing things differently. This is complete sour graping. When he cannot have something, he wants to reduce it to clownish, identity or definition.
What obtains now is that the political giants of the opposition who were in parliament were all kicked out. You all lost an election. Do you imagine this could be an opportunity for you to be more meaningful outside parliament?
You're still referring to the election. But let's take that. Let's take that way. That there was an election.
You were dislodged.
There was an election that
forget the how. You're getting out.
No, when you forget the how, then you are electing to let it pass as though it is normal. It was not normal. Secondly, if you are serious about politics and its consequences, you should never be deterred because there was an event. The election was an event. And any nationalist should use that event to reflect on the possibilities. And where there were losses and gains, there should be lessons learned. Secondly, I have no problem in losing an election. I have a very big problem in being declared a loser in a drama, in a debacle.
Mathias Mpuuga is a true definition of a charmer. When he talks, it's just like Nobody Mao. A true definition of a snake oil salesman. They talk a big game, but on substance and quality, really there's nothing there. Now, of all people that lost the election, it is only Mpuuga who seems to not agree, especially when you refer to the group, they call it the Gang of Seven, the Mpuuga, the Meda Lubega Segona, the Mwanga Chivumbi, and others, the Semuju. It is only Mpuuga who seemed to be like, hey, I didn't have to lose. Actually, at the start of these conversations, shortly after his loss, he was alleging that there was some sort of connivency between the NUP and the NRM that led to his defeat. Absolutely stupid. But Mpuuga won't, there's no bridge too far for him that he won't get to in as far as coming up with these stupid accusations or excuses. There's no depth too deep that he won't go to debase himself into directing attacks because, for example, there was no connivency between the NRM and the NUP that saw the defeat of Ibrahim Semjunganda. And credit where credit is due, he came out and said, hey, I'm saying I was defeated. I lost that election. And this is not an endorsement of the turmoil we saw because the election, especially on the presidential level, was not an election. But in some areas, there's a case to make that the election was organized and people really lost. Now, that doesn't... again, this is really walking a tight line over when you say that, the election, somebody won, it is some sort of endorsing this clown show that we saw Museveni organize. But you and I know that there was no way Mpuuga was going to return to parliament. Had the election from the president up down to the lowest position been fair, Mpuuga wasn't going to go back to parliament. There's no way. And that's why so many people laughed at the delusion of a man who ought to know better when he said he was bringing 80 members of parliament in the August House. Really? It is not feasible at all. There's no way. But he convinced himself that was possible. I don't know whether he even believed that. He knew that wasn't going to be possible. I mean, under what circumstances does Mpuuga end up fielding over 100 candidates for the position of a member of parliament? And people won't have to question into that. Come on, Mpuuga.
where you were a participant.
When you participate, your expectation is that everybody believes that politics is a serious matter in which the participants and all actors and organizers must be serious.
You knew what would befall. I mean, there were signals all over the place. You were actually the one who was prophesying what would happen.
Certainly. And because I did so, I even gave reasons why we participated. That does not make us naive. We wanted to escort the liar to the door of his house.
Okay. Now he's copying he says he's not into sloganeering. Now he's using the words of Bobi Wine. We wanted to escort the liar to the door. Remember, he's a man who said we're not endorsing any person on presidential level, but we're going to be fielding candidates on parliamentary level. Now says, okay, this is what happened. And some of the sympathizers of Mpuga may argue, okay, if you think Mpuga is not making points here, why do you think that Bobi Wine lost an election? Dude, these are two different scenarios. It was sealed, marked and sealed, dusted and done and dusted. Use the term you want to use, any phrase you want to use. It was decided by the military that there's no way Bobi Wine was going to be made president, even if he had won. Now, there were so many cases to argue against other people in other positions, like parliamentary level, to mention but a few. But for presidency, come on, Mpuga wants you to look at his election and compare it to the presidential level. That there was some apparently nebulous forces behind his loss. Mpuga lost popularity in Nyendo Mukungwe. Just like his guy, Abedi Bwanika. That's not rocket science. Just like other people lost popularity as a result of failure to perform for their constituency and a few other reasons. Mpuga, there was no fighting from the NRM that, we want to make sure Mpuga doesn't win this position. That's a lie.
Including those who are saying, let's go for it. Those who are saying...
Now, see, he's throwing some mild jabs at Bobi Wine.
Wanted to escort the liar to the door of his house. Including those who are saying, let's go for it. Disrupt and share. That puts us a little, it sets us back a bit as the opposition, because then with an opportunity, consider what works. Because I'm sure, if we had consolidated the unit of the opposition in voice and action, it would have been different.
What the... What's wrong with this man? If we had consolidated the unity of the opposition, dude, you are the definition, you're the face of the failure of unity of the opposition. There was unity in the National Unity Platform before you awarded yourself 500 million shillings. And then you were fired. But before you were fired from the political party, they gave you a few options. Return back the money. Apologize. Quit the position, the parliamentary commissioner's position you had been appointed to. You said no. And you know what you did? You ended up opening up a political party. That's creating a faction. If you're talking about unity, you are the face of disunity, divisiveness. Jeez.
When we wonder about the fact that there was no transparency in the manner of the EC's working, you would expect a serious opposition, any of the three strands serious, to say, this is the beef. When we tabled bills in Parliament to consider changing the framework of the election, you'd expect the serious opposition to say, this is the business.
This is him now saying, this opposition is not serious. Hey, dude, you're blaming Bobi Wine. You don't want to mention his name, but we know that's what you're doing. You were there before Bobi Wine. Why has it taken you over all these years to come up with those electoral reforms? This man, like I said in the introduction, he's blaming Bobi Wine for the failure of the opposition for the last 40 years. What's wrong with this man?
Still use the same tone. Had you won?
Invariably, yes, because that's what I believe in.
Yes.
It's the tone I used before. It's the tone I used during. Same tone after. I'm consistent, regardless. Because My
You're
legal
not consistent in as far as corruption is concerned. You said, no, I won't take money, this corruption, I won't be involved in this, but you end up actually awarding yourself money.
legacy cannot be defined by an equation of an electoral exercise. My legacy can only be defined by what I believed in. You will not come if you are told to come and write my epitaph.
My epitaph.
At my grave, what would you write, Simon? That I participated in an election and lost, would that be my befitting epitaph?
No, I'll tell you, a befitting epitaph. He was a man who really inspired us, was such an amazing snake oil salesman. He really inspired us in as far as leadership is concerned, but along the way, he was caught into the trap of corruption, and that killed his career. That's what I would write.
I want to be defined by my in an election.
You're not going to define yourself from Mpuga. You don't have that. I cannot define myself. My works and people who have watched me do this will define what I do. Oh, I want to define myself. You won't. You cannot define yourself. We judge you by your actions, not by your words, by what you say. No.
At my grave, what would you write, Simon? That I participated in an election and lost, would that be my befitting epitaph?
Yep.
I want to be defined by my beliefs and the kind of broad national issues I pushed for to set this country on a course of constitutional governance and rule of law.
I see a bit of
Did you catch that? This one wants to be remembered for
my beliefs and the kind of broad national issues I pushed for to set this country on a course of constitutional governance and rule of law.
Oh my God, the rule of law, my bad.
I see a bit of dire straits in the opposition where things stand now. On one part, the leader of the opposition, Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi, is on a wild goose run.
What? That's an insult. He's on a wild goose run. What do you mean, Simon Kaggwa? Ladies and gentlemen, you might not know. Let me assume that you don't. Wild goose run. Let me show you. Wild goose run is referring to wild goose chase, I'm sure. Let me show you what it means. Read here. A foolish and hopeless pursuit of something unattainable. Is that what you're referring to? What's going on in Bobi Wine's life? Bobi Wine is on a wild goose run. Does he really know what it means? Or is just saying, he likes the phrase, the term, wild goose run. He's fleeing. He fled his home, running for his life. So, are you trying to say he's going to be killed anyway? What's wrong with this man?
Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye is in prison. Nsirambi, on the other part, is leading a section to State House. Then you have Mwanga Chivumbi and others. Would you wear a badge of honor of the opposition and say, we still exist, you still exist?
Well, the problem you have, and those who think like you, is to imagine that the opposition equation equals the leaders of the opposition.
Oh, something went wrong. Okay, we need to...
But Simon, unfortunately for politics, unlike other, civil engagement, it doesn't work like that. If you are interested, you should come through. And in our space, you're not simply sprout like a mushroom. You must find a way of making yourself available. You must be available. You must...
That's a lot of word salad, okay? That's a lot of katogo.
Act in a manner that the public must see you available. That Simon should consider pressing his microphone near your table to speak. You cannot say, Nzenga munzibikide, in your blanket. So, of course, the way our politics has been playing out over the last year.
Because what is he saying? Oh, I'm going to do drama. I'm going to make sure that I appear on your TV on a daily basis. Please make sure that you give me a microphone. Invite me in your studios. Jeez.
Choking the space.
No, the space is wide. But the problem is, the way politics has been played here and structured is that it discourages. There are simply so many decent citizens that rather not participate in politics. I have a friend who actually wanted to stand the last election. A lady.
This is an imaginary friend. chances that this friend doesn't exist are 99.9%. Listen here.
Who are decent citizens that rather not participate in politics. I have a friend.
What's his name?
Who actually wanted to stand the last election. A lady.
Oh, a lady, okay.
She even picked nomination papers. When she went to see her mother, the mother said, "Are you going in politics? You want even your intestines to be counted?"
This is a stupid lie. Listen. Oh, you want your intestines to be counted? Look at his face. He knows he's telling a lie.
So they will even count your blood cells.
Now, see how he changes? They will even count you want your intestines to be counted? They will even count your blood cells. First of a liar. What a charlatan.
So because leadership has been vulgarized here and made to appear as though it's a joke, serious people are not in it. In other jurisdictions that are serious, that we admire,
you can say in other places, in other jurisdictions. Jeez.
They are best to participate in leadership.
It's so funny. These people, they argue as though, oh, this is a new thing. Politics has been vulgarized. It is taken as a joke. Oh, things have become sort of... Museveni has been playing this kind of politics since the 1980s. Okay? The abductions, the killing and disappearing of people didn't start in 2025 or 2020 or 2011. Besigye has faced terror, hell, from the day he started running against Museveni. He was forced into exile. Bobi Wine is now on the verge of going into exile. What do you mean it has been vulgarized? And if you're talking about serious people, what did they do in as far as toppling the Museveni regime is concerned? Oh, no, the people we have are not as serious. What did you do when you were in parliament? What difference did you cause? What can we remember? Oh, when Mpuga's leadership did ABC.
Do you still feel any motivation now that, of course, you've been in the trenches forever. You've had the opportunity to be in parliament for 15 years. Now you're out. Do you still feel motivated? Do you have the energy to push on from outside?
The energy does not come from me. It comes from the environment I generate. And the duty is not personal. The duty is for everyone who feels that something needs to be done. And when you generate the necessary momentum.
Now, because Mpuga wears these Mandela-style T-shirts, I think he believes that he's a Nelson Mandela. Every time he's asked a question, he goes into this meandering, unnecessary meandering, and ends up not answering a question.
The necessary, steam. Then leaders will emerge. It may not be me. I still play my role of advising, mentoring. If those I work with feel that I still can play a role, then I'm available. God affording me good health and time.
Isn't it funny that just a few minutes ago or a few seconds ago he said that you won't say it's a big day, yet you're hiding yourself. You have to present yourself. You have to be there in those studio. But now it changes. Says if the people I lead say that they see leadership in me, then I will be here. Jeez.
Well, I still think time is still on my side. If we are led by a generation of the 50s still in the corridors of power, who am I to say it's late? So I think there's still time for me and those in my space, my generation, to play a role, especially of guiding those who are emerging on how things are done. We tried our part. Somehow along the way, we lost our way. We need to rediscover our way.
Yeah. How did you lose this way? Where did you lose this way?
Our way really works.
And now there's a new agenda, and it's about pushing for dialogue.
Okay, they go into that nonsense of pushing for dialogue. Okay. What was the last one I wanted to play you here? Listen, lastly.
Yeah, but the reality seat in parliament, how humiliating can this be? And what does this speak to the future of an outfit where you promised to deliver 80 MPs?
Simon, do you store in the short-term memory? That was part of my preamble to say, I cannot describe the last exercise.
Oh.
It cannot pass the test of an election.
Okay, let's stop there. That's the guy for you. Look, some people have seen me criticizing Mpuga might think that I have some sort of personal vendetta against the man. Absolutely not. I only met Mpuga once in my life. I've only met him once. And that's when I was on NBS as covering the 2021 elections. I was in Masaka manning the Greater Masaka sub-region. That's when I met him. That's it. So there's nothing personal. But I hate it when a politician takes people for fools, gaslights them and thinks that he's this elevated human being that should be telling people what to do and this man. No, I don't believe that. I believe you are a fellow human being just like me, just like any other person. And when he awarded himself 500 million shillings and went on to different radio stations and TVs, gaslighting an entire nation, resulted into belittling Bobi Wine, ad hominem attacks done by him and his closest buddy. What's his name? Abedi Wanika. I said, no. I said, no. This is not going to be the way. So Mpuga, every time he has an opportunity now, you realize that he's blaming Bobi Wine. Every time you hear him blaming the opposition, says, oh, we vulgarized the politics. These are indirect attacks to Bobi Wine. And I won't let him have it. I'll be like, hey, I see you. I see what you're trying to do. So let me know what you think. Please go on and write in the comment section. I would truly appreciate. Am I being too hard on Mathias Mpuuga? Am I being too soft? Where can I fix? And maybe, am I missing out a point on a number of things he said? I could. So, just like I said, there's no personal vendetta against the man over Mathias Mpuuga. If I really did the thing that sounded like a ridicule, mockery, and belittling you, I take it back and apologize. But I won't let you gaslight the country. Bye-bye for now.
Did you enjoy what you just watched?
I'm sure they did.
I'm going to guess that you did. How about you consider subscribing to Mordecai Marissa Live YouTube channel? Thank you.